Good evening. Before we get started with our meeting, Councilmember Hens is going to offer a word of prayer.
Yeah, if you'll pray with me. Father, we bless you. We are grateful for the rain, and we speak blessing over Natchitoches right now. We speak protection over our city and over our community, even over the county, from COVID and all the mess that's been going on. And we speak life and healing over those that have already been infected and that are in our hospitals. We are grateful for our medical professionals. We speak protection over them as well. Give us favor, give us wisdom and discernment as we make decisions to lead the city as best we can. We love you and we trust you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. I will now call our meeting of July 21st, 2020 to order. Ms. Vinson, do we have anyone that is signed up for open forum?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we will move to our consent agenda. If there are any items that council would like to remove for consideration, we can do that. If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's presented.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda as it's written.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Going to our regular agenda, agenda item number 5, consider an ordinance amending ordinance number 1808-09-19. Mr. Opperman.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Assistant City Engineer. We're coming tonight to ask you to consider this ordinance to amend the previously approved $600,000 for storm sewer replacement on South Fredonia and South Church Streets, which was in the CIP budget for the current fiscal year. We received bids on July 9th for this work, with Duplachain Contractors being the low bidder at $688,535, which obviously exceeds the budgeted amount. On top of that, we already have allocated $82,105 from that budget to engineering design and bid advertisement. And so what we're asking you to consider tonight is a budget amendment in the amount of $250,000 to fund both the construction as well as the rest of any contingencies that might come up during construction. There are always unforeseen change orders that happen in most projects, and so to keep from having to come before you again asking for even more money, we'd like to up that to about $850,000 total to be able to spend on this project. So if there's, I don't know if we're doing public comment, but if we are, I'll wait for that and then questions from council.
Okay. Council, are there any questions or comments about this budget amendment?
What do you do with, I mean, you're asking for that amount so that you don't have to come back just in case it's more than you think initially. Now, what if it's not? What happens to that money that's allocated to it?
It just goes back into the treasury, I suppose you would say. We just wouldn't use it in effect.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Case. And if there are no further questions, Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve agenda item number 5 as it is written. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And agenda item number 6, consider bid award for the 2020 Downtown Storm Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Again, Mr. Opperman.
Thank you, Council. Again, talking about this storm sewer project that we have, as I mentioned, we received bids on July 9th for this work. We had 3 bidders for this work, and as I said, Duplachain Contractors was the low bidder at $688,535. Duplachain has done many projects for the city. They do good work. We're very confident in their abilities. They're actually doing a couple of projects for us in the city right now. And so we're very comfortable recommending them for award. Just a little background on this project. It's, as I said, South Church Street and South Fredonia both have failing storm sewer lines. Basically, the pipe has come apart. It's separated under the pavement, or it's under capacity well, I should say South Fredonia is coming apart. South Church is under capacity. And so what we're asking for is the ability to put what is called a cast in place pipe in South Church Street, which is basically a liner that gets inserted into the pipe. And in South Church Street, we're going to replace that whole line. And this will help with significant drainage issues that we've had on these streets, as well as help prevent any further destabilization of the streets that have occurred. And so with that, we would ask for your consideration, and I'll entertain any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Opperman?
Hey, Case, what is the size pipe at Fredonia?
The one in Fredonia, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's a 36-inch pipe.
What are we going to increase the size in Fredonia? I thought it was Fredonia was the large and Church was the small.
No, actually, Church Street has a 42-inch pipe.
42-inch.
Are we come separated? Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we going to go 42 at the Fredonia?
No, all we're doing on Fredonia is putting that liner inside.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So we're basically just getting rid of all the cracks in the pipe.
The separations?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Don't forget about that. All right.
Running South Church Street.
Brick Street to follow in.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Well, a motion to approve item agenda number 6, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion to approve agenda item number 6 as is written.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve agenda item number 6 as presented. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Agenda item, thank you. Agenda item number 7, consider award of contract to Musco Lighting for installation of lights at Clint Dempsey Soccer Complex. Mr. Bray, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Brian Bray, your Community Services Director. In 2017, we hired 215 Consulting to do a pretty thorough light pole integrity assessment of both wooden poles, metal poles, in all of our parks, sports facilities, cemeteries, recreation center. And this came on the heels of several football stadiums, high school stadiums that had pretty catastrophic light pole failures where people were seriously injured. And since 2017, we've been able to address all but this last project. The poles were prioritized for deterioration or creases in the metal poles, and they were categorized a 1 to 2, rather an immediate fix now or something bad's going to happen, and then 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 5 on down the line. And then they were also categorized into ones that we needed a budget item for and ones that maintenance staff, park staff could address. So through your generosity, we've completed all of them, but this one. This is the last one standing, and this was one that wasn't an immediate. These poles have been in place in the ground for 35 years. They were in use somewhere else for 10 years prior to that. So these wooden poles have been in the ground for 45 years. And the consultant said, and I'll just read a quote, showed noticeable effects from the frequency of standing water. When they did a core sample, they drilled all the way into it. It was noticeably damp in the middle. And so we were able to have that project funded this year through general fund. Then staff reached out to U.S. Soccer Foundation and wrote a grant for $25,000. And we were fortunate to receive our second award from U.S. Soccer Foundation. So the proposal for you this evening is to enter into an agreement with U.S. Soccer Foundation for $106,000, which is actually a $131,000 project, just subtracting that $25,000. So Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Bray? Okay.
Would you mind speaking to a little bit of what are they wanting to do different? Are they going to be different size or different materials, or just touch on that a little bit?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So once we replace these, we will have soccer and youth baseball all to metal poles. The life expectancy of these is one that you as a council member and me as a city staff won't have to ever consider even doing an assessment on them because their lifespan is so long. We're also upgrading this type of light. We chose to not go with the LED fixture because there's still quite a bit of expense in the LED fixture itself. And it's not to the point on savings yet where we can recoup it in energy savings. It is on smaller projects, but not this one because it's the amount of hours that they're going to be used. But the spillover, something that I didn't consider when we first started looking at this, is the spillover effect. So the area where the light is shining itself, it shines basically on the field, and that's it. So that's a good problem because you'd have less light pollution, but it's a bad problem when you're trying to walk to your car in the evening. And so that's why this project includes 2 security lights so that when the main lights are turned off, you can still see to safely get to your car. Did that answer your question, sir?
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Anyone else have a question? Okay. This is a great project. The chair will entertain a motion for approval or not. Hopefully so.
I move to approve agenda item number 7 as it is written.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 8, annual review and adoption of city's investment policy. Ms. Kerbo, good evening.
Good evening, Pam Kerbo, Director of Finance. This item before you tonight is just an annual update on our investment policy, which is required by the Public Funds Investment Act. There were no changes other than a couple of spelling errors in this policy as to the one that y'all adopted last year. It still currently states that the city manager, the director of finance, and the assistant director of finance compose the investment committee. We do not have those by name. And so once the new city manager is on board, he will assume the position as a member of the investment committee. So there was no changes needed for removing Mr. Jeffers' name or anything like that. So this is just a satisfaction of the state law so that every year that we actually show that we do comply and have a investment policy that directs the city's investments. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, council, any questions for Ms. Kerbo? Okay, hearing none, chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We pass agenda item number 8 as it's written.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve agenda item number 8 as it is written. If no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Number 9, we're going to have sort of a short 2020-2021 budget workshop. Again, Ms. Kerbo.
Give me just a few minutes. I'm going to try to share my screen with you. I
Okay,
know what I'm doing. Let's see. Okay, can everyone see the budget workshop title page?
yes, it's loading.
Okay, let me know when it comes up, please.
I have it.
You have it? Is everyone able to see it? It may be slow on the internet connections.
Okay, I can see it.
Okay, so just real quickly, a reminder of where we stand as far as the budget calendar. The very first draft of the budget will be due to the city secretary by Friday, July the 31st. Y'all will see an actual first copy of that draft at the August 4th city council meeting. Then on August the 18th council meeting, we will have budget workshop number 2, as well as the first public hearing on the budget, CIP, and tax rate. The first September meeting, which of course we have shifted, thank y'all for doing that, gives me a couple of extra weeks, to September the 8th will be the second public hearing and the first reading. And then, of course, on September the 22nd, we will have the second and final reading and adopt the budget and tax rate. Uh-oh, sorry. I think I went too far. Hold on. There we go. Just as a FYI, we were a little bit leery of presenting a normal per se budget to y'all this year with the economic uncertainty that has surrounded the entire nation and I guess globe for the last few months. We actually have gone forward with the idea that the 2021 budget is going to have to be a very conservative budget, and we will not be funding any new items unless they're absolutely necessary. City manager and I asked the departments to work within their existing budget figures for their department. They could shift money within their department, but to try to stay within the overall scope of the current budget for next year. And everyone was very successful in doing that. We did have to make some adjustments for items that we're under contract for, whether that be software maintenance contracts, those types of things. But everyone was able to stay within the confines of the current budget for next year, which makes things a little bit simpler on our end. One thing that we hope to do is each quarter next year, I will come to you with an updated quarterly financial statement and let you know at what point we see revenues actually recovering sufficient enough for us to consider some budget requests that probably would have gone forward this summer. We're just going to be a little bit on the conservative side and wait until we see revenues recover, and then we will reassess those quarterly next year. The estimates that I have in the proposed budget as it stands today, property tax, we have not received an estimate from the CAD. I talked to Gary Woods today, and he has promised me those numbers by Friday. So I look forward to seeing those. If y'all will remember, the Senate Bill 2 was passed this last year. That was implemented for this next budget year, which limits the property tax increase that we can propose. In the past, what was known as the rollback rate is now the voter approval rate. They've changed all the terminology, so as you go forward, you're not going to see rollback anymore. The voter approval rate is limited to 3.5% increase, where in the past it was 8%. We will be proposing that voter approval rate right underneath it. We do not, of course, want to have to go through the process of having an election. So it will be less than 3.5%, but we will be proposing that rate for 2021 at that new decreased limit. Sales tax right now, I have budgeted a 2% decrease. And it's kind of been a very difficult thing for us because sales tax has not been down like we thought. But I have one more month of that I want to look at. And those numbers come out on August the 12th before we make a final determination on how we're going to budget sales tax. Right now, it's probably, I would say, closer to a 1.8% decrease, which is roughly $100,000 to $120,000 that we have decreased that budget. Hopefully things continue in the way we've been going and we don't see that. but conservatively, we felt like that was the way we had to go. Court fines and hotel taxes both have seen a significant decrease this year. We are still working on coming up with a number for that. I have conversations right now going with both Judge Watts and Sherry Morgan at the CVB. They will be meeting with the city manager and myself to discuss those finalized amounts. So by the time you get your August the 4th draft, we will have finalized those numbers. But right now we do anticipate a pretty significant decrease to the tune of a couple $100,000 each. Just a couple of items to note, and this is going to be the end of it for me. We, of course, do not have any cost of living adjustments included in the 2021 budget. One reason, of course, is because of the uncertainty of the economy right now, but also the national CPI is less than like 0.6% or something right now. So there's really not there's not an adjustment to be made at this point. But if you will recall, we did have a company come in and do a salary survey and prepare a compensation plan for us. Of course, right now we do not have the funds to completely implement that, but we are going to look at that mid-year. If our revenues recover, then we're going to come back to y'all with an implementation plan for the compensation plan. And that may be a 1, 2, 3 year phase in to get everybody where they belong. But we'll be coming back to you with that. As it stands right now, the proposed budget will not include any of those salary adjustments. Another thing that we are hopeful that we will be able to not increase the health insurance premiums for 2021. It's going to be a very tight year. We had a couple of big claims in the prior years, and so our insurance liability could be a little bit higher this year than normal. So we are trying to fund that as best we can. We feel like we can do it with the existing premiums and not increase that this year, and just pray that we don't have any significant claims in the next year. One thing that we are proposing in the upcoming budget is the creation of a self-funded dental insurance program. This is a little bit different from the health insurance. We're partially self-funded on the health side. This will be a fully self-funded plan that the city will pay 100% of the employee premiums, which is basically $30 per employee per month. That equates to about $115,000 spread over the 3 major funds where we have employees. We felt like this was a good step in providing something of substance to the employees this year in the absence of any type of cost of living or salary adjustments, and the creation of the self-funded dental insurance program. Historically, most businesses that have a self-funded dental program usually end up funding themselves very well. It's I don't want to say a money maker, but they are very good at being able to actually self-sustain themselves. And so that's one thing that will be included in the proposed budget. Of course, that is completely at your discretion whether that stays or we remove that. I just wanted you to know that was something that we would be proposing. And lastly, this will be year 5 of our previously adopted water and sewer rate increase. This is the last of the 5-year increase. So those will be built into the 2020 document as well. And I'm going to jump out of here real quick. And okay. So that's kind of where the budget stands right now as a highlight. And so tonight I'm here just to answer any questions, to take any direction, any ideas, any thoughts of things that you would like Chief Stevie and I to investigate. Just whatever y'all would like to discuss, we'll be happy to answer as best we can tonight, or get you some information in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Council, does anyone have any questions about any portion of this for Ms. Kerbo?
I do. Ms. Kerbo, the 3.5% or just under the 3.5% limit that you're going to be proposing, is that to cover anything in particular? Like, is that to be able to down the line have the resources to start implementing the salary increases, or is it just for bottom line stuff?
Well, at this point, until we get property tax numbers, I really can't answer that. I would hope that our property tax increase will cover our current operations so that we do have a little bit left over because, like I said, we're coming to you mid-year with the compensation plan and the salary survey phase in. So in best case scenario that we would have a couple of $100,000 available to start funding that, because it's going to take several years. It just kind of depends on we did lose some value this year in property taxes from our original estimates that Gary sent us over in April, I believe. And so it just depends on what our final values are when he calculates that to know how much additional revenue we're going to pick up. Another thing it determines is what the court fines, how much we actually lose there. There's a big impact on the general fund budget with that. So I would like to say that the majority of that will be used to assess for compensation plan or for any of the unfunded capital that we are not proposing right now that come up next year. But depending on what it is, it may just cover the operational budget as it is, and there may not just be a whole lot left. We'll know more next week.
Thank you.
Pam,
Okay, anyone else?
yeah, that'd be great. The quarterly assessment seems really wise. Is that a common practice whenever you have uncertainty in the middle of financial messes like this, or?
I have been here 23 years and I don't know that we've ever had anything as uncertain as this. I honestly don't recall us having to go even back through, I think, 08 or 09 when there was the big recession. I don't even recall back then us having to really say, we're just going to propose the current budget again and reassess. I think this is truly a unique problem that we find ourselves in right now. And that was when Chief Stevie and I discussed it. That's really the only thing that I felt comfortable. We could have brought you a budget with everybody's request and all this, but then we would have been having to come back every quarter and say, hey, we can't fund this. We're going to have to suspend hiring. And we didn't want to go backwards. We would rather start conservatively and add if we have to, than to come back mid-year and say, hey, we didn't make revenue like we thought we would, and we're going to have to start cutting expenditures mid-year. That's harder to do.
Sure, that makes sense. I appreciate that.
And that question, the items that was budgeted for this year's budget, are we going to be able to carry those? Are we be able to complete those and not carry them over to next year?
Good question, Mr. Bolden. We have opened back up our capital as far as things that are in the current budget that need to be completed, and we are doing those as needed. But since those are actually covered under current year revenues, and our current year revenues are not down as much as we anticipated, largely due to a couple $100,000 worth of sales tax audits and NISD's building permits that were not budgeted this year, that were a significant revenue. We are going to have that money already allocated. And so those projects that are not completed by September the 30th, if they are truly needed and necessary, yes, we will be able to carry those over, and they're going to be existing monies. They won't be utilizing any new monies.
Thank you.
One more for you. This is just out of curiosity. I know you said that this is a completely unique position that we find ourselves in. Given that, I mean, I understand that, but is this sort of like in terms of best practices, this just adopting the same budget without any extra and then quarterly reassessment. Is that what we're seeing other similarly sized or similarly situated cities doing? Do you know?
I do not. I have not talked with a lot of the other cities to know what they are proposing. I know it's not unusual for us, and I say this is a very unusual time for us as to how we're handling this. It is not unusual for us to tell the departments, you're going to have to operate within the current budget. We're not going to be adding anything. A couple of years ago, we actually said, you're going to have to cut, I forgot what Jeffrey said, 5%, 10% out of your department budget. So it's not an unusual practice. Usually when things like that happen, though, it's because there's some big project that needs to be added to the budget. And so we cut everywhere else. This just happens to be, there's not so much uncertainty with revenues. We're just keeping all the expenditures the same instead of trying to add new large expenditures like a salary adjustment or something like that. And we've done salary adjustments mid-year before. I know the last one we did 2 or 3 years ago. We waited until the mid-year point, and then Mr. Jeffers brought to y'all a salary adjustment effective for April 1. So that we do have some precedent in handling this, just not exactly to the extent that we're doing it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If not, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And I believe that is the last agenda item we have. So, and Ms. Vinson, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no executive session this evening.
No, that's correct, ma'am.
Thank you. So that concludes our meeting of July 21st, 2020. Thank you all for attending.